Hey, everybody, I'm Scott Wikle. You're listening to My Kind of Country here on Fish Creek Radio. Thanks for joining us on a Monday night. My special guest is carrying on real country music in a strong way. He is a fantastic artist, right cut from the cloth of the great Hank Williams Sr. Pleasure to have him on the show tonight. We're going to talk to him and play some of his great music for you. This is Jake Penrod. Jake, how are you tonight?
Doing good, Scott. How's it going?
Fantastic. Great to have you on the show. We've been working on this for a while, and it finally came out.
Yeah, I've been excited about it. This will be fun.
Well, you are working with some great folks. Jason James, of course, one of my very favorites, and Joey Alcorn. And I'll tell you what, all you guys are really keeping traditional country music alive and well, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, Jason and Joey are two real good friends of mine. I've known Joey for 15 years or so. I've known Jason for about 5, and we all seem to be cut from the same cloth, I guess.
Well, I'm glad you are, because I really enjoy your music and just love what you're doing. And I try to catch all you guys on the Lost Highway Facebook live streams. Those are great.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of fun. It's a little strange. Well, it was at first. It's become commonplace now. Yeah, it's just sort of the changing world we're in. We're used to be playing for rooms full of people. Now we're playing for digital rooms full of people.
Yeah, well, hey, you're still getting the music out there, and it's kind of cool to be able to sit, in your home and have some great music. So nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, the load in for these gigs is pretty easy.
Yeah, no kidding. That is for sure. Well, Jake, tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to be such a lover of real country music.
It just sort of, I guess when I was 4 years old, my dad introduced me to Sons of the Pioneers, and that kind of got me into just older music in general. And, and I can remember, George Strait, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks being popular when I was a kid. But when I was 8, I got turned on to Hank Williams Sr., and from then on, I pretty much lost all interest in modern music. And I don't necessarily dislike it. It just doesn't really appeal to me the way the older classic stuff does. So as I started learning how to play and sing, the stuff that I was putting out sounded like the stuff I was listening to. And it just all kind of has that, I don't like to say old feel because it's new, but it's real classic at the same time. So it's different, that's for sure, I guess.
Yeah. So what is it about the older music that really drew you in as opposed to the newer stuff?
I really don't know. I know it was an older, or I keep going back to the word older. I know it was a different sound. Just the way the instruments fit together, the way the voices set. For some reason, it seemed it was just more pleasant to listen to for me. I can't really put my finger on what it is about that sound. I just know it rested on my ears easier than newer stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you first get into performing and recording?
I was in high school, I think 16, 17 years old. I played keyboard in a band. And that was my first, I guess, taste of performing. And then I went from that to doing little Opry shows around Texas. I started there on the Gladewater Opry in 2004. Coming out, I think about once a month, singing with a house band over there. And that's when I really got that's when I got hooked on performing and singing for people. It just all sort of, one little thing happened after another. I never know what to say when somebody asks, how did you get started? Because it's like just this big convoluted cobweb of events that happened to get me where I am now. But I just kind of started at the bottom. There really is no bottom and there really is no top. It's sort of it's a four-dimensional thing we're living in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started doing the little stuff and worked my way up to doing some bigger stuff, and here I am.
Well, that's great. Now you're from Athens, Texas, right?
Yes, sir. Right out here. I'm just outside of Athens on Highway 31.
So as you were growing up, I'm sure you probably had the opportunity to see an awful lot of the country music legends coming through there.
Saw a few, and really I didn't get to see much until I was a little bit older. I can't remember going to any shows when I was young. The first concert I remember, I was probably 18, and I went to see David Frizzell and Jet Williams over here in Corsicana.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, I live not too far from a place that I don't think it's open now, but it's called Coal Miners. And I was never old enough to go to see any of the big stars that came out there, but we used to get some big acts out this way. I just never was fortunate enough to get to see them.
Yeah.
But I really didn't start going to shows until I was on the shows, and so my first exposure to meeting some of these heroes of mine, I was kind of working side by side with them, and so that was pretty strange. I say strange; it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see a lot of shows, growing up. I was taking part in them by the time I saw any, really. I know that didn't make a whole lot of sense. I got tongue-tied there.
That's all right. Well, I tell you, one of the first ones to see, that's a good one, the Frizzell and Williams. They did a really great tour. There's a DVD that they have out of that show, too, and that was fabulous. David Frizzell is a very dear friend of mine and one of the best in the business right there.
Oh, sweetheart of a guy, too. I've just met him a handful of times. He doesn't have any of that sense of ego or any, and Jet's the same way. They're just both really, really down-to-earth people.
Yeah, absolutely. Extremely talented, no doubt about it. Well, speaking of talent, your first album, in 2013, Closer to Me, you wrote all the songs on it, and I believe you played all the instruments on it too, right?
Yes, sir. That's what I always joke. I said it could have came out better, but I had to play all the instruments myself.
Well, I think that's impressive. One of the things that sets an artist apart and gives you longevity in the business is writing your own material. And you've written some great songs, and the fact that you're playing all the instruments, I think, is a fantastic thing, and it really showcases your talent. And I think you sell yourself short a little bit there, because I think that's a great album.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, you also did some work with the Brazos Valley Boys and the Texas Playboys too, right?
I've worked with a handful of them. When I started doing, of course, I don't do it now, but I started doing the Hank Williams Remembered show, and the band that we put together for that was made up of former Brazos Valley Boys as well as a couple of Texas Playboys, and it was really cool to go on the road with some of these guys and hear some of the stories that they've got, because that's something that there'll never be another Bob Wills, there'll never be another Hank Thompson, and so these guys, with the experiences that they had and the stories that they can tell, it was just a wealth of historical information for somebody like me to sit back and listen to these guys tell their tales.
Oh yeah,
it was pretty fascinating.
I've interviewed a lot of the what we all call sidemen, and to me they're stars in their own right. And you're absolutely correct that they have so many great stories, and they were just as big a part, because if these artists didn't have those great musicians behind them, they wouldn't have sounded as great as they did.
Oh yeah, and that's part of their signature sound. Most of the time is certain musicians. They, like, for example, Hank Williams had Don Helms, and it's as soon as that steel guitar hits, you know exactly who you're listening to. Same thing with when Hank Thompson had Merle Travis playing guitar on his recordings. You're listening to a Hank Thompson recording as soon as that guitar hits.
Yeah,
it's just that's something I feel like it's kind of missing today. You don't hear an intro and immediately know, oh, that's Luke Bryan, or because they don't have those. And they're doing some great stuff, but I don't hear any signature sounds coming out anymore.
No, you're definitely right.
Maybe I'm not listening for it, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be.
No, it's definitely not. And you're right. There's so many of the Ernest Tubb is another one. Even Merle Haggard. the song drops before the artist even starts singing. You know who it is. You're
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
right, and that's one of the things I love. And you mentioned Hank Williams too. I did a interview with Joe Penny, who was one of the actual original members of the Drifting Cowboys before
Mhm.
Hank got really big. And man, I'll
Right.
tell you what, did that guy have some stories? It was just so cool to be able to talk to him.
Oh yeah. I used to know Braxton Schufert, who was probably in that same lineup. I know he was one of the early Drifting Cowboys, and he was older than Hank, and so a lot of his stories that he would tell from back then, it's sort of like it's about Hank the teenager. He kind of referred to him as like his little brother, and it was really unique to hear somebody speak of this legendary guy from that perspective.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love hanging out with them. And sadly, there's not many of them around, but I love hanging around these guys and just hearing their insight, things that what their experience was working with these guys. Especially in that case, because Braxton knew Hank as a kid, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you're very interested in the history of country music, and you've also written and narrated a documentary on Hank, right?
Sort of. We did my former manager and I, David Stallings, we put our heads together and wrote up essentially it's about a 2-hour stage show. I presented it more as a kind of a lecture with music, but it detailed the life of Hank Williams, more the career than his life. And then later on we did the history of honky tonk, or history of country music, kind of in the same vein. It was narration and music together. And sort of a unique experience. It's definitely a theater show. I wouldn't want to take it to a honky tonk or anything like that, but I had a lot of fun with it.
Oh, sure. Well, you definitely when you do Hank Williams songs, you do them well, and the thing I like about you is every time I see you, either on a performance or a Facebook thing, whatever it is, you're always dressed up, and you always look the part, and I think that is so just absolutely essential for country music. When you're gonna be on that stage, you got to look like you belong there.
Yeah, I've always kind of thought that if people are paying for a ticket to come and see you, you got to look good for them. And I've not in so much that you dress so outlandishly that people feel uncomfortable standing next to you, because I've seen that as well. But there's a balance. I used to suit and tie everywhere I went, and I started to notice that some of these little outdoor chicken pecking events, it's almost folks are kind of turned off by that. So I kind of, I always dress up a bit, but as far as holes in blue jeans and untucked shirts, that's not my bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm suit and tie for some reason I've always been comfortable in. I know people say most people are uncomfortable in that. It's stuffy, or the collar's too tight. I just like to look nice if I can.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of older musicians, and that's kind of their take on it. My Bluetooth just beeped at me, so it's about to. I need to switch
All right.
gears here. Hold on.
That's all right.
Is this all right?
Yeah. Absolutely, I got you.
Yeah, my battery's going out, so it's not going to last longer. Here we go.
All right. Perfect. One of the songs that I get a lot of requests for, and we've played quite a bit, and it seems to be a real favorite. It's for you. It's called "Baby Steps." Tell me a little bit about that song.
That's the only recording of my own that I can really stand to listen to be honest with you. That was I like how it came out. It's one of the, anytime an artist goes into the studio, there's this balance of what the artist wants and what the engineer can hear and all of that. And Baby Steps is the only one that came out exactly the way that I thought it should sound. But it's that sort of the groove of that song and the feel is sort of borrowed from some of the I'd say late '70s Hank Williams Jr. stuff.
Yeah.
Whiskey Bat and Family Tradition, and so it's kind of in that vein. But the song was actually written one night I was, at my old job, I won't say what I used to do, but I was outside quite a bit. I was walking down some steps, and I think mid-January, and we had just had an ice storm, and the ground was real slick, and I go to walk down some stairs, and my left foot slid out from under me, and I caught myself on a rail, and it was just sort of out loud. I said, okay, baby steps, don't fall. And the phrase baby steps stuck in my head until I found a place to sit down, and I wrote the song in about 3 minutes.
Wow.
And it was one of those things. I wrote it down, and I thought, well, this is goofy. And I put it up, and I wasn't going to mess with it. And when I pulled it out later on, when I was able to sit down with the guitar, I played through it and thought, well, this isn't half bad. And it's become really one of my more requested songs. I know it got played overseas quite a bit. There's a magazine from the UK called Country Music People, and their editor picks for 2017, it was the #1 song, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well deserved. It's a great song. And, I've talked to so many songwriters over the years, and that's one of the common factors that I'll hear is that the really good songs seem to come really fast.
Oh, yeah. It's because we're not really writing them. We're just writing them down. The song was floating around in the atmosphere, and I happened to catch it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the ones that you work on and you try to write, some of them, and I'm not going to slam anybody's work, but in my experience, the ones that you work the hardest on, or they always seem to fall short of what you're trying to say. But the ones that just come to you immediately, it's like God wrote them and just sent it down.
Yeah.
Here, catch this. This is going to be a good one if you can write it.
Yep.
So that's. It's strange. People ask me a lot about the process of songwriting, and there's no process. I don't do anything to prepare, or there's no routine. Typically, it interrupts whatever I'm doing, and it's an inconvenience to sit down and write a song because they come to you, and you have to write them while they're there. I know I get ideas all the time and think, oh, that's great. I'll have to write. Sure enough, I can't remember it when I do. But songs are a funny thing. I don't understand them. I just I live with them.
There you go. That's well said right there. JakePenrod.com is the website, folks. You can go there and check out Jake's music and pick up his fantastic album, Out of Control. And they call you the $1 Million Cowboy. How did you get that handle?
That was, with band names. It started years ago, before I ever formed a band. I grew up obsessed with Hank Williams, and it was only maybe about 3 or 4 years ago I finally decided there's already a Hank Williams, I'm going to do my thing. But I always kind of held on to that. His band was the Drifting Cowboys, and I always liked the cowboy idea. I grew up out here on a cattle ranch, and my dad is just a diehard cowboy. My grandfather, he was into ranching, horses. My brother, the whole family. It's just I grew up watching Lonesome Dove every weekend. That's the kind of childhood I had, and so cowboy has always just sort of been ingrained in my persona. And so I always wanted to use the word cowboys in my band somehow or other. In the first incarnation, and we never played a show. We rehearsed a couple times when I was, I think, still in college, and I called it the Honky Tonk Cowboys. And like I said, we never played anywhere, and that just sort of died out. And then when I did start playing, I had some other folks making some calling shots, and I ended up with a band name that I didn't really like. We called it the Honky Tonk Express. And anyway, I broke that up and thought really hard about what I would call the band. And it kind of came down to everybody in this business seems to want to make $1 million. That's like everybody's, let's say, quote unquote, the American dream is I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to make $1 million doing this. And the other end of that, well, there's 3 points. There's you want to make $1 million, The other is let's look like $1 million. Let's sound like $1 million. And the other is it seems like in this business you have to spend $1 million to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's where we get the $1 Million Cowboys, and they're each worth about $333,000 a piece because I've got 3 of them.
There you go. I love
and I'm
it.
worth $1.
I love it. Well, what's on the horizon for you? Are you working on new music at all?
I am. I've got a new album. I've got pieces. I say it's in the can. There's pieces of it. I've got about 3 more songs to get down, and I'll finally be done with this thing. And it's creeping along, but the longer it takes, and this is kind of cool. The original vision that I had is 4 years old now, and I've kind of come a long way since I started. And so this album's going to span quite a few years of, my own developmental process, I guess you'd say. And so it's got a lot of the really cool honky-tonk twang in it, but it's also got a little bit of, I won't say too modern. It's basically my spin on the classic sound. So it's going to be pretty cool. And I need to stop. We were talking about the writing process. Songs tend to interrupt my life. I've had everything all pretty much planned out the way I want the album to sound and flow, and then I'll write another song. Think, well, I can't leave this one out. So I've finally cut it off. I said, all right, I know what songs I'm gonna put on here, and the rest of them I'll put out as singles when the album is finished. But it's already sounding really cool, and I can't wait to get the whole thing mastered and mixed so that it'll be a real record. It's not seems like projects I've worked on in the past, I seem to kind of just throw some stuff together and it sounds all right, let's do it. But this time around, there's a whole lot more thought has gone into it, a whole lot more just real careful picking, and I'm pretty proud of how it's shaping up, and I think it's going to be a really, really cool album when we get it finished up.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I hope when you get it done, you'll come back on the shows. I'd love to do a feature on it.
Absolutely. I can't wait to get finally some new music out. We've been recycling the same old songs for a couple of years, and the Baby Steps has been good to me, but I'm kind of tired of hearing it,
Yeah, well, we're going to play it again tonight, so you're going to be really tired of hearing it after that, but I got to play it for my listeners. We do get a lot of requests for it. So
well, I never get tired of people wanting to hear it. I'll put it that way.
There you go. That's the way to be right there. JakePenrod.com is the website, folks. Please check it out. And, Jake, thank you so much for taking time to be on My Kind of Country.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. Anytime.
All right. Here's some great music from Jake Penrod as we continue. My Kind of Country, it's Fish Creek Radio.
I know baby stepping out on me tonight, and I ought to leave, but I can't make myself believe it's right. So I'll take baby steps till I'm free, 'cause baby steps all over me. I'll take baby steps till I made it out the door. made it out the door, then it won't matter if baby steps out on me anymore. I'd love to stay, but I know I have to leave, 'cause baby steps all over